She walked in to buy a car. He told her she wasn't welcome. The next day, her husband's Phantom pulled up out front. Pam Bondi hadn't planned on making headlines. Not like this. It was a Tuesday. Warm, breezy. The kind of Miami day that made you want to take the long way home. She stepped into one of the city's most exclusive car dealerships, her cream-colored blazer crisp over a pale blue blouse. Nothing flashy, but effortlessly confident. Her heels clicked against the polished floor as she moved past a row of luxury vehicles. No cameras, no entourage, just her. She wasn't here for a sales pitch or a lecture on horsepower. She had done her research. All she needed was a quiet, professional transaction, a custom order for her husband's birthday. Greg Bondi wasn't a man of many words, but when it came to cars, his enthusiasm spoke volumes. He liked them like he liked his politics. Classic, powerful, unapologetically American. Pam paused by a black Bentley, running her fingers along the hand-stitched leather. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. Across the showroom, a receptionist glanced up, eyes narrowing before lifting a sleek wireless phone to her ear. Pam barely noticed. She was lost in thought, imagining Greg's reaction when he saw the car. Then came the footsteps. "Ma'am, can I help you?" The voice was young, male, professional, but something was off. Pam turned. The salesman was in his late 20s, navy polo embroidered with the dealership's logo, eyes cool and calculating. "Yes," she said, offering a polite smile. "I'd like to discuss a custom order for a Phantom. I saw your build options online and I know who you are." Pam paused, studied him. The friendly customer service mask had slipped, replaced with something colder. "Excuse me?" she asked, calm but wary. He lowered his voice, glancing around. "You're Pam Bondi, right? From Florida. Trump's legal team." She nodded slowly. "I'm sorry, but we reserve the right to refuse service. This dealership has a specific culture and standard of clientele." Pam tilted her head. "And how exactly does that exclude me?" His expression didn't change. "Some of your affiliations don't align with the values we represent. We've had clients express discomfort in the past when certain political figures make appearances here. We just want to maintain a safe space." Safe space. Pam blinked, more surprised than angry. Was this real? The words felt rehearsed, like a script he'd practiced but didn't fully believe. "So you're saying I'm not welcome here?" "I'm saying," he replied evenly, "we'd prefer if you took your business elsewhere." Silence hung in the air like static. A few other customers glanced over but said nothing. Pam surveyed the room once, pressed her lips together. She didn't argue, didn't raise her voice, just gave a small nod and turned toward the glass doors. Her heels clicked against the marble floor, quieter this time. Outside, the Florida humidity pressed against her skin, but her face remained unreadable. She reached into her purse, pulled out her phone and walked to her car. She didn't cry. She didn't tweet. She just drove away. But what she didn't know, Greg was already waiting with a plan. "No," she said. Kept it low like he thought he was doing something noble. Greg nodded once. "Good. That makes it cleaner." Pam raised an eyebrow. "Cleaner?" He was already walking toward the living room, grabbing his phone on the way. "Greg, don't make this a thing." "I won't," he said, stopping just long enough to glance back at her. "But I'm not letting some kid with a name tag and a superiority complex treat you like you walked into the wrong neighborhood." Pam smirked. "I can fight my own battles." "You did," Greg said. "You walked out with your head up. That's more than most would have done." He scrolled through his contacts, paused, and tapped a name. Pam leaned against the doorway. "Who are you? Calling?" Greg put the phone on speaker. "Maxwell Imports, this is Devin." "Devin," Greg said. "It's Greg Bondi," a shift in tone. "Greg, haven't heard from you in months. You still got that ghost I set you up with last year?" "Yeah, still runs like new. Listen, I need a Phantom, fully custom, delivered to Miami, tomorrow afternoon." Devon hesitated. Tomorrow? Greg, tell the factory I'll pay for speed. Obsidian black. Deep caramel leather interior. Walnut inlays. Lambswool mats. Full rear comfort package. You know how my wife likes her legroom. A low whistle on the other end. You serious? Greg's voice was even, sharp. Dead serious. Devon didn't ask questions. All right, I'll call in a favor. Anything else? Greg glanced at Pam. Deliver it directly to Palmetto Lux Motors on Miracle Mile. No drop-offs, no waiting. Roll it right off the truck in front of the showroom. And make sure someone records it. Devon chuckled. I like where this is going. Consider it done. Greg ended the call, tucking his phone into his back pocket. Pam folded her arms. You're making a scene. No, he said. I'm making a point. She walked toward him, slower now, thoughtful. You're spending almost $500,000 to prove something to a kid who probably doesn't even know how financing works. Greg shrugged. I'm not doing it for him. He stepped outside, the scent of chlorine and blooming jasmine in the air. Pam stayed in the doorway, arms still crossed. She could roll her eyes. She could tell him to let it go, but deep down, she understood. This wasn't about revenge, not about politics, it was about reputation. And by tomorrow afternoon, this wouldn't just be a local story. It was going far beyond Miami. The camera caught a glimpse of the young manager again, pale, frozen. His mouth didn't move. Another staffer leaned in, whispered something, and his shoulders stiffened. Off-screen, someone asked, "Who ordered that?" The camera shifted just as a silver sedan pulled into the lot behind the truck. A man stepped out. Greg, dark jacket, sunglasses on, expression unreadable. He didn't wave, didn't smile, just walked straight to the Phantom, opened the door, and sat inside, adjusting the seat like he'd owned it for years. The young manager hesitated, then approached, unsure of what to say. The mic barely caught his voice. You here to see someone? Greg didn't look up. He adjusted the rearview mirror, then, calm as ever, replied, No. Just here to remind you who you turned away. The live feed cut off. Pam stared at her screen, speechless. Then her phone vibrated again and again. Texts flooding in. Friends, family, former colleagues, even reporters she hadn't spoken to in years. Was that your husband? They really kicked you out yesterday? This is going viral. She set the phone down. No response, no post. Just sipped her coffee, eyes on the garden outside. Greg walked in 2 hours later, setting the Phantom's keys on the counter. I think that made the point, he said. Pam looked at him. A little theatrical. He smirked. So was the way. They dismissed you. She didn't argue. But neither of them expected how fast the video would spread or the firestorm it was about to ignite. By late afternoon, the clip was everywhere. Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, even group chats Pam would never be part of. Reposted with shaky commentary, sarcastic memes, slowed down edits of Greg's reply captioned, "Coldest line of the year." Meanwhile, the dealership scrambled. Their Instagram went silent. Comments off. The original live stream deleted within hours. Too late. Inside, the mood had shifted. Behind tinted glass, the young manager, Aiden Brody, was pacing his office. Not just nervous, scared. He'd gone off script. The dealership had no official political stance. His words to Pam? Personal. And now it was about to cost them. A senior exec from corporate had already called. Twice. Her voice snapped over speakerphone. Why would you say that? I was trying to protect the space, Aiden stammered. She's controversial. I thought. You thought? She cut in. You don't think, Aiden. You execute policy. And now we're trending for all the wrong reasons. He ran, a hand through his hair. I didn't know who her husband was. I didn't expect him to drop a $500,000 car on our doorstep. The exec scoffed. Yeah, well, neither did we. She hung up. In the showroom, employees whispered. Customers walked in, feigning indifference but stealing glances at the Phantom now parked across the street. It hadn't moved since delivery. Behind the dealership's coffee bar, a few employees murmured, "Man, she got kicked out one day and dropped a Rolls the next." She didn't drop it, her husband did. Same difference. A pause. That's love, bro. Back across town, Pam and Greg sat on their patio. "I should have seen it coming," she said finally. "I've been political furniture for years. Someone always has something to say." Greg leaned back, watching the sky darken above them. "That's not the point," he murmured. Pam glanced at him. Greg continued, his voice calm but firm. "People can hate your views, disagree with your choices. But when some kid in a branded polo decides it's his job to gatekeep a showroom, he's not making a stand. He's making a spectacle." Pam stared at the glass in her hand. "Still, I didn't want the attention. This whole thing, it feels petty." Greg turned his head slightly, his expression unreadable. "What's petty is being humiliated for existing." She didn't respond. She didn't have to. Inside, the news was beginning to bite. A local reporter from Fort Lauderdale had reached out for a comment. Conservative bloggers were spinning the story into proof of industry bias. A few even suggested boycotts. Not that Pam put much stock in those. She wasn't interested in punishment. She wasn't trying to be a martyr. She had just wanted to buy her husband a birthday car. That's what stung the most. Greg never said it outright, but Pam knew the gesture wasn't about revenge. It was about respect. A silent message. "I see you. I stand with you." Later that night, Greg picked up his phone and sent a simple message to Devin, the broker. "Thank you. The delivery was perfect. Don't say anything publicly. This wasn't a PR stunt." Devin's reply was almost immediate. "Understood. But just so you know, that clip, it's blowing up." Greg's response was just as short. "Let it." While the internet played referee and the dealership scrambled, something bigger was shifting. Not just online. People were paying attention, and they were taking sides. The following morning, Pomelux Motors opened at 10 a.m. sharp, business as usual. But the energy was different. Customers weren't just walking in to browse or ask about warranty extensions. They were looking around, whispering, "Is this the place?" Two guys in their 20s strolled in, aviators and cargo shorts, not exactly the usual clientele for a dealership where the cheapest car started at $300,000. They walked straight up to the front desk. "Hey, where's the Phantom from the clip?" The receptionist forced a tight smile. "That vehicle's already been moved." "Damn," one muttered. "Would have been cool to see it." They left without even grabbing a brochure. Inside his office, Brody was spiraling. The corporate email chain had exploded overnight. Words like liability, brand damage, and client discrimination bounced between executives. Legal had requested transcripts of every customer interaction from the past week. Then Trent walked in. Trent, the dealership's general manager. A quiet, behind-the-scenes guy. But not today. He closed the door. "Tell me exactly what you said." To her. Aiden swallowed. His mouth was dry. "I told her we reserve the right to refuse service, that her presence might make other clients uncomfortable." Trent folded his arms. "You said that? To Pam Bondi? In a business built on client relationships?" "She's a public figure, controversial. I thought—" Trent cut him off. "You thought wrong. There wasn't a version of this where Aiden came out looking good. Outside, another customer asked about the car from the video. When told the Phantom was no longer on site, they shrugged and walked out without another word. Meanwhile, across Miami in a quiet conference room overlooking Biscayne Bay, Pam sat across from Marta Gibbons, a retired judge turned consultant. No cameras. No lawyers. Just coffee between two women who had seen what power looked like when it got lazy. Marta sipped her drink. "You sure you don't want to respond?" Pam shook her head. "If I say something, it becomes a war. Then they get to play victim." "True. But people are talking, they want your side." Pam leaned back. "They're filling in the blanks just fine without me." Marta studied her, then nodded. "You always did know how to wait out a storm." Pam gave a small, knowing smile. I've just learned, when silence costs less. Meanwhile, the dealership's problems were only growing. That evening, a local station aired a segment titled, "Did Politics Get Pam Bondi Banned from Buying a Car?" It wasn't flattering. The footage showed the delivery truck, the stunned reactions, the Phantom slowly rolling down the ramp. The voiceover commentary danced between legal rights and public perception. Then came the phone calls. Customers started canceling appointments. A high-profile buyer postponed a delivery until the dealership clarified its stance. Luxury SUV scheduled for pickup sat untouched on the lot. That night, Trent called a staff meeting. Flatly, he said, "We don't take political sides. We sell cars. We build relationships. That's our brand. And whatever this was, that wasn't." Nobody said Aiden's name, but everyone knew. Later that evening, Greg pulled into the driveway. He'd taken the Phantom out for its first proper drive. Just around the city. A few looks. A couple of compliments from people who didn't even know what they were looking at. He stepped inside, dropped his keys on the counter, and found Pam in the living room. She was flipping through the news. The volume low. "You see the Channel 7 piece?" he asked. She nodded, eyes still on the screen. Greg sat beside her. "You okay?" Pam thought for a moment. "It's strange," she murmured. The video didn't even show what happened inside, just the response. And somehow that was enough. Greg looked at her. "It was more than enough," he said. But the internet wasn't done. While Pam remained silent, more people, famous and not, began speaking up. The story had evolved beyond a car purchase. It was now about who gets treated how and what happens when the tables turn. 3 days after the delivery, Pam's name was trending again, not because of a press conference, not because she had spoken out, but because someone had tagged her in. A screenshot from a private Facebook group. A woman named Karen Finley, a Miami resident, had posted, "I was there that day." She didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice, she just walked out. "I didn't even know who she was at the time, but now. I wish I had said something." Within hours, the post went viral, shared thousands of times. News outlets picked it up, and suddenly the story had a second wind. It wasn't just a clip anymore, it was a narrative. A woman wronged, not by words but by tone, by the assumption that she didn't belong, and the public was eating it up. Videos flooded social media. Some sided with the dealership, others were outraged. One TikTok, a stitched video transforming Pam's so-called walk of shame into a walk of dignity, racked up over 3 million views in a single day. Still, Pam said nothing. No tweets, no interviews. She met with friends, had lunch, took phone calls, and every time someone asked if she was going to respond, her answer was the same. No. But behind the scenes, her silence was speaking louder than any statement could. Brands reached out. A luxury watch company wanted to gift her a timepiece. A private car club offered her a lifetime membership. A conservative think tank asked if she'd use the moment as a platform. She declined them all. "This wasn't a stunt," she told Greg one night. "I just wanted to buy you a car." Greg smiled. "Well, you bought me a car. And a lesson." Meanwhile, at Palmetto Lux Motors, the fallout was becoming unmanageable. Trent, the general manager, sat in a back office with 2 corporate reps from Los Angeles. They had flown in to handle the mess. "We're considering placing you on administrative leave," one of them said to Aiden, who sat across from them, pale fingers tapping the armrest of his chair. "I made a mistake," Aiden admitted. "But this backlash, it's political. You can't punish me for trying to protect the store's image." The other rep, a woman in her 50s, leaned forward. "You didn't protect the image, you damaged it. That woman didn't shout, she didn't protest, she didn't even film anything. And now, everyone sees her as the reasonable one." Aiden looked away. They hadn't fired him, yet, but he could. See the writing on the wall. Foot traffic was dwindling, and those who did visit weren't there to buy. They came to take pictures, to see the dealership from the video. One man even suggested turning the clip into an NFT. At home, Pam sat on the back patio with Marta again, this time with lemonade instead of coffee. You know what I keep thinking? Pam mused. Marta glanced up. What's that? If I had yelled or made a scene, they would have had a reason to paint me as the problem. Marta nodded. But you didn't. Pam looked out at the garden. That's the thing. They expected a fight. They were ready for the loud version, but they weren't ready for someone just walking away. That's what shook them, Marta said. Greg stepped outside, carrying 2 glasses of wine. He handed one to Pam. You hear what that dealership's offering now? He asked. She raised an eyebrow. 10% off for first-time buyers, social media promo codes. They're scrambling. Pam chuckled softly. Discounts won't fix reputation. Greg clinked his glass against hers. No, but maybe silence will keep building yours. What Pam didn't know was that a national news outlet was already preparing to run a segment on the incident, airing on a Thursday night, prime time, a 5-minute feature on a major news magazine show, and it began with the voice everyone recognized. What happens when a former attorney general walks into a luxury dealership and is told she doesn't belong? This week, a quiet moment turned into a viral statement about politics, power, and pride. The segment played out like a modern parable. The clip of the Phantom's delivery slowed, Greg stepping out in crisp, deliberate motion, a soft instrumental swelling beneath it. The journalist narrated in measured tones. A cultural commentator framed it as more than just a reaction. It was elegant resistance. Another guest dismissed politics altogether. This wasn't about left or right, he said. It was about dignity. We're so used to outrage, we forget how powerful silence can be. Pam watched from her couch, feet tucked beneath her, hands wrapped around a cooling mug. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She just watched. Greg sat beside her, flipping through unopened mail. Is it weird? He asked. What? Seeing your life narrated like a case study, Pam shrugged. I've seen stranger things on cable news. He chuckled. Her phone buzzed. An old colleague, someone she hadn't heard from in years, saw the story. You did more by saying nothing than I ever could with a speech. Pam didn't reply. She didn't need to. The next morning, the dealership made a last-ditch attempt at damage control, posting a vague corporate statement. It didn't mention her. It didn't mention the incident. But the message was clear. We are committed to creating an inclusive environment where all customers feel welcome. We recognize that recent events have sparked conversation and we are listening. The comments were turned off within the hour. Aidan Brody was quietly reassigned to another location. And Greg? He never parked the Phantom in the garage. He kept it outside, polished under a custom cover, just a few feet from the edge of their lawn. When neighbors asked about it, he only ever said, "Birthday gift from my wife." Even after the media frenzy, the trending hashtags, the primetime coverage, Pam never tried to turn the moment into more. She didn't seek clout. She didn't give speeches. She didn't try to win the internet. Because sometimes the most powerful statement isn't made with words, it's made with action. Not everything needs to be shouted. Not every insult needs a reply. Sometimes the loudest voice in the room belongs to the person who says nothing at all, yet leaves everyone else rethinking the way they speak. That dealership? In time, they'll move on, change staff, change policies, change the color of their walls. But that clip, the one where the Phantom rolled down the ramp, that will stay, because it wasn't a show. It wasn't revenge. It was restraint, wrapped in leather seats and quiet defiance. A reminder that character isn't just how you act when people are watching. It's how you carry yourself when they aren't. And maybe that's the real lesson. The world is loud enough. Be the one who moves differently, who chooses respect even when it's not given, who keeps their head high when others try to drag them low. Pam never set out to be a symbol, but for a moment, without ever raising her voice, she became one anyway. And the world listened. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs the reminder. You don't have to shout to be heard. And subscribe for more real stories. Stories that show what character looks like in the moments that matter.